Our first unit together was fall of 2009, and we were incorporating GarageBand into learning about the ecosystems.
Start with a sound circle.
Yep.
You start with silence. You can make any sound you want, or you can repeat a sound that you hear. You can make any sound at all. With your voice, with your body, and the main thing is to be making sound and listening to the environment of sound that we're making, so that you can respond and communicate with that sound. Alright? You guys think you can do this? Yes! Okay, so close your eyes. So we'll start with 5 seconds of silence, okay?
That sound circle really got them ready to use their voices and their bodies in the classroom setting outside of the music.
And that led to a really simple exploration of
Texture of sound and what makes sound.
Smacking things together? He said smacking things together. I never using your hand. No, can you feel the floor vibrate?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can hear the pipes.
Oh yeah, what do you hear? Do you hear the building?
Yeah.
Now stomp your feet while you're listening to the floor.
At first I was kind of like, well, this is silly. I had never done anything like that before. But then looking back on the unit, our end result would have never been the way that it was without that initial, like, playful...
Clap your hands, you know, little things like that. Almost like kindergarten level.
Crinkle paper.
With no content even. We started with just the art form with no, that wasn't about anything.
No.
And it upset the normal social order.
Yes.
That we pushed the desks aside, got to lay on the ground.
Yes. And at some point, some of the kids got a little silly. I remember we had to ask one student to leave the sound circle, but...
Your eyes should be closed. You should be laying down and listening over the floor.
And then we went from there and said, okay, well, let's make some animal sounds. What does a bat sound like? What does a tiger sound like? They were just using their voices and their bodies.
Bumblebees.
Now I want to hear bumblebees at a disco. Go. Now I want to hear a chorus of frogs singing Jingle Bells.
It's so different than reading about, oh, this is all about the rainforest, and here's some cool pictures. Like, they had to make sounds. They had to look up animals. They had to look up plants and, like, of what it would sound like if you were in the rainforest. They've never been in the rainforest.
You're not a good frog, is it? Yeah? And it's got the frog eating a bug. Alright? Jocelyn has one for Rain. I want to hear. Alright, can you guys do it together? Let's see. Yeah.
Then one day Jeff had just brought in all of these random objects, these like empty like wrapping paper rolls, like glass jars, beads, wood blocks, like all of these.
Leaves.
Yeah.
Water.
which we found out that
Bad idea.
later on. So they were able to just make an instrument. And I was kind of like, what is, it was definitely stretch and explore. They just were given all of these items.
I thought, well, they'll take these natural things from the environment, like from the jungle, and I'll use leaves, or if I'm from the desert, I'll use sand. So I brought all those things. Once they started taking it all apart and putting water and everything, like, I was like, this is the worst. This is like totally chaotic. This isn't what I wanted to teach them. No one's doing what I wanted them to do. It was like, oh, they're like getting something out of this more than either of us intended. They would make an instrument, and it wasn't like, this sounds like a snake. It'd be, this is a snake. The rattle was a stick, it was like a drumstick with a bag that was full of stuff. That was his rattlesnake.
The bat, Naomi's bat.
The bat, this is a bat. It was like a shaker
Yes.
made of coconuts, 2 coconuts taped together. She gave it wings.
Oh, the bat's wings are Kleenex
And eyes.
and eyes. And then she would, when she wanted to make the sound of it, she would hold it and it would like flap up and down. And she put something inside of it so it made this like shaking noise.
The little shaker was something cool too. It was a ladybug, I think.
This rain stick literally has like
Spoons.
like leaves popping out of the top. What is that?
I don't know, that's pretty good. Everything looked like it belonged in some kind of weird tribal ritual.
They took like complete ownership of what they created. Like they did not want us to dispose of the instruments. If they were given crayons and glue and scissors of objects we'd find around the classroom, I don't think there's that bat would have never been created. We said that the sounds that you make, it should sound like your rainforest. So we had everybody like put their heads down, and then we quietly like picked a group, and they started making their ecosystem sounds, and then the rest of the class had to guess what ecosystem it was.
At this point, the kids are really listening to each other.
This is just like one ecosystem. These kids are one ecosystem.
This is the tundra.
Oh.
When they were making the different sounds, we taught the food chain and how, and like some science vocabulary, like a producer, a herbivore, carnivore, and what they eat and what they don't eat. And then from that, well, we did that like a chomp game, the predator-prey game.
Where basically the kids make a big circle, and they play the part of the ocean, and in the center it's an island. And in the island you have an herbivore and a producer at first, like a rabbit and some grass or a carrot. And then it's like Marco Polo, where the rabbit makes a sound and the producer has to respond. I don't know what sound a carrot makes, but... And then you can switch it where you have an herbivore and a carnivore, and then the carnivore makes a sound and the herbivore has to respond with their sound. And the job of the ocean is basically to keep them safe so that they don't wander outside the circle.
And they're all closing their eyes, and they find, and then they become the prey when they get chomped.
Okay. Spread out. Herbivores. Close your eyes. Herbivores. Close them. Herbivore sound.
It really helps visualize and almost take on the role of being the producer or the animal. And it like gave them hands-on experience that enhanced long-term comprehension. Our book didn't go into specific details individually about the ecosystems. It was kind of more like in general. So after one of the lessons, he went down to the library and started talking to our librarian, and he was the one that got all these extra books. He's like, the kids, they want to know all these things, they want to know more. Well, they really needed that extra like background, like to look up in the books, because they just wanted to say like a monkey lives in the rainforest.
And you're right, they would get excited about it, and they would go look it up, and it was like a rainbow-nosed gibbon lives in the...
Animals we didn't even know about.
Yeah. But then they would read further. They'd be like, he sucks your blood, or, you know, they would start to know everything about that specific animal.
Yep.
Which was cool.
We started recording the sounds that we were making in GarageBand.
We would have, say, the desert group come up with their instruments and record their parts one at a time. So they went from performing as a group to recording their animals individually, and then they would save it all together as the desert song. Of course, with the GarageBand, they could then overlap them, repeat them, and then they would use reverb and effects to really make it sound like a place.
Last year I kept saying, see, it's music and science class. And so now, even when we're in other subjects, I'll point out those little things. And so now even like when we're in science or in language arts and a math vocabulary word comes in, they're like, see, it's math and language arts, it's science, and and they're kind of seeing it more as everything is like connected instead of as like separate subjects.
I got a number of cards afterwards from the kids that Shannon had them make, and I get those a lot, but these had pictures of the activities that we did and drawings of animals and of their animal instruments that they made.
These kids, whenever they think of it or hear or learn about ecosystem, many of them will refer back to this. Mm-hmm. I know it does in my head.
Because it was something exciting they did.
Mm-hmm.